and we're here to talk about how we can actually push SME and MSMEs. So how has it been? We want to talk about 2025, have a recap of how 2025 went and everything.
Uh, 2025, we kick-started this finance media lifestyle. Just when we kick-started, it all started like I don't want to use it like a play stuff, but it started something serious, being intentional about it. So we went in financially, we went in media way, and the lifestyle way we are killing it, and trying to visit some water parks, clients, and
Exactly.
letting them know what goes on in the economic global space, how they can benefit from it, and what are the things, the policies, the principles that they need to apply, especially these MSME people. The entrepreneurs owns the whole space.
I'm telling
Most of
you.
them don't just know that. That
Exactly.
once you're an entrepreneur, you tend to what? You tend to create value for the society.
Yeah.
And you tend to create jobs and things like that.
Exactly.
As
Exactly.
2025 was, bro, 2025 was an wholesome year. We just have to say all glory to God for that.
Yeah. Well, I will agree that 2025 was awesome, but a lot of events happened in 2025. Like a lot of stuffs happened from the business angle and everything, And I would say 2025, it's always a blessed year. There's always lessons to learn, and there's always growth, and most important thing is being intentional. You made mention of intentionality. And I think 2025, that was one thing that I really wanted SME brands, and MSME brands to understand that being intentional about your business, being intentional about your growth, it's not negotiable. And I'm just glad we're here again and want to kickstart this topic again. And we still want to go out there to tell people that, hey, this is your business. You have to own your business. You have to take it very, very personal, because if you want to grow, you want to grow your brand, you want to make your business grow for you, you want to make your business work for you, you have to be intentional about your business. You have to treat your business like your life, like we've always said. So yeah, I'm just glad we're here to talk about these things anymore.
Yeah, of course. I'm so glad to talk about these things. And 2025 was a year that a lot of things happened. Where we were having we have the this is ongoing, this present ongoing Palestine and Israel war.
Yeah.
And it was 2025. Donald Trump came in as the president of the
Exactly.
United States of America.
But sorry to cut you short.
Okay.
The Palestine Israel war, would you say that's the ongoing? Are they still having
I would
dialogue?
say, these people are they are in the top political space, whereby they are the apex of the pyramid, and they are playing their, I don't want to use playing their games, because everything these political powers are looking for is resources, whereby they claim resources from each geopolitical zone, is trying to make sure that, okay, my country benefits from these resources, my business benefits from these resources. You made mention of one thing last year, and I agreed with you. You said, this world, everything in this world is business.
It's business.
Everything in this
So
world is
so
business.
we're
Whether you
gonna
like
agree
it or
that
not.
it's all business.
Yeah.
It's all business. So the big question is, what are your leaders doing business wise? Are your leaders? So this is going to draw us back to Nigeria. You understand? It's going to draw us. What are your leaders looking at business wise? How are they trying to make sure that their country, their resources benefit the citizen? But I don't want to stop you. You were making some points.
Yeah, of course. You should throw us back to Nigeria. But before then, you asked me, this Israel and Palestine war, is it still ongoing? To me, I would say it is ongoing, because it is yet to be settled. It is ongoing. They might not put it on the media space for us to see anymore, but it is definitely ongoing. And this deals with resources. This deals with what the people. And it was last year Donald Trump also came in as the president of the United States of America. And when he won that election and he had a victory in it, it actually skyrocketed the United States dollar, whereby it helped a whole lot of businesses in the United States that are going to benefit from it. And these things now also help the United States companies, SMEs, the S&P's 500, to know that, okay, there are tariffs. These tariffs that he had issues with the Chinese, the EU and China tariffs, that that was almost about 40% increase.
Mm.
So these things are things that happened in 2025.
Mm.
And also in 2025, last year I could remember you and I were having about all these EDFs, assets to invest in, and you made mention of crypto. And I
Yeah.
was like, wow, my brother made mention of crypto. Crypto hit $100,000 last year. Can you
Deep.
believe it? Crypto hit $100,000 increase last year.
Deep.
And I was telling you about gold, yeah, the alternative asset about gold. And do you know that gold, as of last year, 2025, was 2,600 per ounce?
Mm.
That's a big
That's
high
huge.
increase.
Yeah.
So if someone has a gold right now,
Mm.
if you have a gold present time and
Yeah.
you want to go and sell it, it's a big investment. You're cashing out on a big time.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. And I just want to add, last year we had this, especially it has always been there, but in Nigeria, the whole stock markets and everything, they really came on board last year and everything. And with these new policies and stuffs like that. So we'll be having a lot of people. I think we'll be having a lot of people investing or going into stock market and stuff like that this year. Or don't you feel the same?
Yeah, this stock market of 18, the AI new trend that came in
Yeah.
2024, 2025 affected it in a big way.
Yeah.
And the stock market right now, we have it. Aside from the global stock in the foreign market, the S&P's 500, rather,
Yeah.
and Nigerian stock market. I have a client that invested in Nigerian stock market into about 5 portfolios that we're managing, and this guy was cashing out on a big time. He had a very good return on investment on everything he did. Cashing out about close to 25 million naira. That's not small, my brother.
Yeah, yeah.
And that he didn't even
kickstarting.
invest. He didn't even invest in the treasury bills of Nigeria, the bonds, the corporate bonds, and government
that's
bonds.
the thing.
Yeah, but right now, this stock market of a thing with these new present policies of tax, it is going to be affected because it is part of the law. It is laid down in the law that once you get your own your return on investment, your ROI, you get to be taxed. Yeah, you have to be taxed.
Okay.
So be it maybe you invested and you invested 100 million to cash out, let's say 20 million naira.
Yeah.
You get me? You have to pay withholding tax on it.
Okay.
If you're a corporate body, you pay withholding tax. If you're a personal person, you're going to pay withholding tax on it. These policies and things like that, they are all things that happened in 2025 that are also going to
be looking deep into it in this 2026.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. That's true. A lot of things really happened in 2025. Not just apart from, you just made mention of gold and all, even the stock, this whole stock market stuff, I think is really coming down to Nigeria now. We're going to be having a lot of people coming in to invest into this stock market and stuff like that and everything. And I know most people now want to know, how does this thing work? Sometimes I scroll through the internet and I see a lot of people trying to give out or dish out information around stock market, and like, okay, this is the stock you need to invest in, and this is the stuff. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So so I know we'll be having lots of people, a lot of SMEs brands trying to say, okay, personal people that want to say, okay, let me invest into this thing. Let me see how this thing works. Do you understand? So I think more education is going to be coming into that, or don't you feel the same?
Yeah, we have to put more enlightenment to it for the people out there. Be it you're a corporate body or you're a personal person working for companies. And you're earning, you want to invest your money you're earning. Maybe after checking out your incomes come in and you've taken out your expenses, and you want to just invest your profits. You don't want to tune your profits yourself. We are going to do this. We're going to put more enlightenment on how to invest in these stocks. There are a lot of portfolios whereby you can invest in it. And most people just think, okay, let me focus my portfolio on this certain part of industry. I have a someone who just who focused majority of his portfolios of his incomes on just energies and oil and gas. But luckily for him, oil and gas skyrocketed last year and year before, which was 2025 and 2024. But I do advise people that this money, even if it's just 200,000 naira you have, you can put 20,000 naira in agriculture, you can put 20,000 naira in manufacturing industry, you can put 20,000 naira in oil and gas, which is the energy aspect of it. You can put 20,000 naira in finance industries. Banks last year in Nigeria was given a very high ROI. to people who invested. The dividends last year, that for those that invested in finances, they had a high dividend, and this is things I tell people, that you try and diversify. Don't just focus every part of your income on one aspect of life. No, just try and diversify, because you don't know what will happen.
Yeah.
Just like just imagine this policy of tax that came out, that was passed into bill. That was June 2025.
January
It
1st,
takes effect.
2026.
It has to take effect from January 1st, 2026.
It's already
Now,
kick-started. Yeah.
exactly. There are a lot of government policies. There's instability in government policies. A new government can come in right now and tell you that I want to change up on these principles of taxes, rather. And if you're just focused on one part of life, it might affect your portfolio.
That's true.
Because you're not part of this political space of these people. You're not sitting and dining with them.
Yeah.
It is when you dine and sit with them, you got to know what is projected for you to make more money.
That's true. But talking about the whole policy that is unsustainable, you understand? You just made mention of the insustainability of governmental policies. I think that will have to be, I don't want to say this, but it will have to be peculiar to Nigeria. Nigeria do have things like that, a governmental policy that are not really stable, and that can go a long way to really affect business, especially for SMEs businesses. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Because
yeah, I do.
We really do need government policies to be very, very stable. Do you understand? So that it can actually help investors to be able to invest and be assured to know that, okay, I'm investing and I'll be able to look for a long term. I'll be able to relax for a long term. I know that, okay, this investment I'm making is going to be there for the long run, at least to an extent, for me to be able to see if I can make back my money and stuff like that, which is going to bring us to the main conversation that we're going to be having, which is government policies and how it affects SME brands and MSME brands. So yeah.
So this thing you said is one of the major bottleneck that has affected this instability in government policies and principles. It's one of the major bottleneck that have affected a lot of SMEs out there, not only in Nigeria.
Yeah, this is all great. This brings us back to the main topic we're going to be having today, which is government policies and how it affects SME brands and MSME brands. So, moving forward, talking about this tax that just came in. Yeah, we all know this tax. They've said if you are SME brands and you're not earning up to, I think, is it 25 million or 50 million? And I don't want to even talk too much, because I think they discover close to like 31 discrepancy on this tax stuff. So I can't really even now categorically say what is the figure that these things are going to affect, how it's going to affect. I can't even now categorically, that's the whole dynamics of this new tax law. But initially, when it kickstarted, it was more of like, it's going to really give a little bit of breather to brands like this, to give them a little bit of ease, when it comes to around tax, until they're able to meet a particular threshold in terms of profit making and income and stuff like that. But yeah, let's look at this, talking about government policies and how do you think there's a pathway here?
You made mention of this tax issues. When this tax came out, when this new tax law, now they've changed the Nigerian from, it is not the Nigerian Tax Act, the NTA.
Okay.
When it first came out, do you get my point?
Yeah.
It caused an uproar in the financial sector. People trying to check. Tax is something majority of the people don't want to pay, even though it's our obligation. We find it difficult. We citizens find it difficult to pay the tax.
And it's essential, actually.
Yeah, it is very, very essential. You have to pay your tax. You just have to pay, because the government has created an enabling environment for you to do business. And when you made mention of this tax thing right now, the discrepancies you made mention of, which was discovered by one of the top big fours, which is KPMG.
Yeah.
It is something that I feel like before this tax law should be passed into bill, this is what the tax law, the person who created it, also
That's Taiwo.
Yeah, Mr. Taiwo.
Shout out to Taiwo.
I feel he ought to sit down with the top fours we have in the whole global system, which is the PwC, the EY, Ernst & Young, Deloitte, and Tucci, and KPMG, which found these recent discrepancies. And one of the things that I found that it is very, 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 very concerning to every citizen, the whole 350 million Nigerian citizens we probably have, is the authenticity of these tax laws. You can't expect that I am passing A to the bill, to the law, telling the old people that this is what it is, and then what it is in the law that you have to experience, you have to pay for, is different. It doesn't sit well with me from my own point of view. So the authenticity of this tax law needs to be checked, because tax law right now, if I'm going to say I'm avoiding it and I'm going to evade it, I'll be penalized for it. And now if you're giving me something that is not well authentified, then you want to penalize me for what for a criminal,
I
something
understand
criminal
what you're trying to
offense
say. Talking
you're
about
trying
the
to do.
discrepancy, and you want to
Yeah.
penalize me
So
for something that you are not even, it's
you
not
know,
even clear on paper.
exactly, you're not even
Exactly.
clear on it.
But you do know that I think KPNG a few days ago they came back and I think they highlighted that, oh, okay, this discrepancy that we talked about initially. Okay, we've rectified it. I think there's not really discrepancy. I think a news like that did broke out of
Yeah,
recent,
that
like,
was some days ago. But for them to come out at first and telling you these discrepancies, well, I actually looked into the tax laws myself, and one of those discrepancies is talking about taxing communities, personal individuals, and people. Aside the authenticity and taxing communities, KPMG also try to figure out that, okay, if you're taxing communities and you're not going to tax communities where you ought to tax them, this is talking about the inconsistency in the tax laws. And as at which was some days ago here, the chairman of the tax board came out and said, okay, I didn't say some of these things, and these are the things that are leading to the society and the people trying to check that, okay, what exactly do you want to tax us on? What is this tax law that we just have to focus ourselves on and know that, okay, this is what I'm paying? And I do tell people, we have a lot of big businessmen in Nigeria that in diaspora, that their place of residence is in Nigeria, and they have their businesses, be it in Norway, in Greece. Some people have their businesses in Burundi, and they are doing fine, and they don't mind paying their taxes, their personal income
but it just
taxes.
needs to be clear.
Exactly. The tax law needs to be clear for them that, okay, this is what I'm paying. Actually, the PIT, which is the personal income tax,
Seems to be
is
clear.
very clear. Seems to be very clear for every individual there. That, okay, if you're making 0 to 800, you're not paying any tax. That's not that you're not paying any tax,
Yeah.
but it's going to be 0%.
Yeah.
So if you're making from 800,001 to 2 million naira, you're going to be paying 20%. So if you're someone that you're used to paying these taxes, you will find it difficult to adhere to these things, because you see that, okay, fine, I do pay my taxes right from time, and if you're telling me that I need to pay more taxes, I need to pay percentage on this my incomes, no problem about that. Of course, I'm ready to do that because I'm making money and I feel I should pay this tax. I don't want to evade, neither do I want to avoid paying these taxes. Of course, we have people like that. I wouldn't want to mention name, but he has his business in Burundi and he also in Morocco, and his place of residence is in Nigeria. He pays his tax. He doesn't even like avoiding or evading it. If I try to tell him that, sir, these tax laws are some loopholes we can go into, and we can help you avoid some taxes, you don't have to pay. He tells me that, you know what, Mr. Man, just do it and let me pay my tax. That's what he just say, don't worry, K, let me pay my tax. I don't
Okay.
have issue paying my
Okay,
taxes.
so here's the thing, like what we just established. I do think that it's not about paying the taxes. Before we started, I said something. I said, I don't know if this is even peculiar to the Nigerian system. It is all about the inconsistency. Do you understand? Like I made mention of investors want to invest in a place where they know that they are assured. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? They want to be assured that, okay, is this what you want us to do? Is this policy trustworthy? Is this policy stable? Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Is this policy something I can bank on for a long term? Is this something that, okay, I can operate on? Now, we're just talking about tax now, and we're looking at inconsistencies. Okay, now, shout out to Taiwo. I always say shout out to Taiwo because you know why I always say shout out to Taiwo? I
Why?
think
Why?
there's this popular I think it was an interview I saw on Lil Wayne, and they were talking about the best rapper and stuff like that. And he was asking like who is on the list, and they were like, okay, a so guy was not on the list, and then I was like, he was expecting like I was expecting Drake to like I was expecting Drake to be like number one or something like that. And they were like, Drake is not on number one. He's like, is he not number one? He said, who is not on the number one? And he was like, I think he said Gucci is on the list. I said, Gucci, shout out to Gucci. You know that kind of a thing. Like, you're putting Gucci on the list when you ought to put it. Eminem is not even on the list. Do you understand? So that's the reason why I'm also saying shout out to Taiwo, So yeah, but what I'm trying to say is that, talking about SME brands, you understand what I'm trying to say? To an extent, when building a business, you're building a business from scratch, it's not easy to build a business, especially in Nigeria. And at first, when the tax system came about, I was a little bit very, very excited about it because I felt like, it actually gave room for SME brands to actually grow. You know, understand?
Yeah, of course.
SME brands to actually grow. And I was like, oh, okay, very excited. At least giving them space to be able to, invest, take time. They're not rushing them in terms of, okay, you need to pay tax and stuff like that. Okay, when you start making a threshold of around, now, like I said, I don't even know if I'm going to say, is it 50 million or is it even 100 million or 25 million?
Yeah, it is 100 million.
100 million. Yeah. Okay, I was like, okay, it's cool. Like, oh, you're giving them a breathing space until they start making 100 million. And once they start making 100 million, oh, okay, now you need to start remitting your taxes. So, wow. And I was like, when I see people that will say, okay, I want to kickstart my business, I want to do something, I'm like, okay, I'm encouraging them. Okay, you know what? You need to start doing this thing. You need to start doing this thing. I have a friend of mine, and he was talking to me. I was like, I'm mostly in the media field, and it was like, I wanted to shoot a movie and stuff like that, but I don't know. I want to pay my tax, and I want to kickstart, but I don't know where to start from and everything. I was like, you know what? You don't need to bother about that right now. What's your target? It was like, my target is I want to make sure that this production hits around 50 million. I was like, okay, you are in luck. At least the Nigeria system gives you an ability to be able to make 50 million, and you go back again. You go back again and then you start something. Then when you start making 100 million and above and stuff like that, why not? But mind you, of course, you pay your normal VAT tax. You pay the normal tax that's, if you're taking your movie to the cinema and stuff like that, you pay the whole tax that is embedded there. You do pay those taxes. But now, the guy calls me again and is like, okay, I don't even know what to do now. This tax law and everything. And you know what I always say? I say, you know what? Just wait. Just wait until we have a proper clarification. I think it was 2 days ago or a day ago, I was going through, it was Daily Times, and I saw a post where it said, okay, we are halting the tax. And to an extent, I was like, oh, okay, I think that's cool. Then I was scrolling through the internet again and I saw Mr. Taiwo. He said, oh, okay, this is fake news. And, because of this whole irregularity around it and all that stuff. So today you hear these and you're trying to hold on to that. Tomorrow you hear that it's fake news. And so we don't really know. But what I always advise people, let us wait. I think Mr. Taiwo will always come around, clarify things. But the most thing that is important, why they're trying to clarify this whole thing, they've passed it into law. And it's just, for me, I feel it's mind-boggling.
Since it has been passed into law, the authenticity of that tax law needs to be something that needs to be verified.
It needs to be.
Yeah, it has to be verified so that every citizen will know that, okay, this is what this tax law is expecting of me, rather.
Yeah.
Maybe this is what you want me to pay for my taxes if I'm making this amount of money. So, also the tax law is for SMEs and MSMEs. So I urge every SMEs and MSMEs entrepreneurs out there that are companies that, okay, just put yourself on your 10 toes. Don't dull yourself on this tax, the way Nigeria says it.
Yes,
Don't just sleep on it. Know what is going on around it financially. Be it you're a person making money, because every guy man out there is trying to make something for themselves.
Exactly.
So, and whatever thing you make for yourself, you'll be taxed on it.
Exactly.
So you have to put yourself on your 10 toes on, okay, what is the authenticity around this tax law that requires me to pay something? And I do say that, in Nigeria right now, the MSMEs and SMEs contributes about 40 to 50% of our GDP.
And that's
And
crazy.
that's crazy. Yeah,
And,
of
and that's
course.
why the government needs to really look at this set of people. Because like Peter will always say, Peter Obi, he will always say, we need to really invest on this set of people. Do you understand? Because literally they are the engine room of every country.
Of course,
Do you understand? They are the one that helps you to reduce your employment ratio. They help you
course.
to make sure that, okay, if people are not having jobs, these are the set of people that help you out there.
Yeah.
So you need to be able to create a policy that really help those people to thrive.
Yeah.
And that was the
you
reason
have
why I
to.
told you that I was really, really excited when I saw that, 100 million, that's a good one, it's a good one. But right now, with the
one. It's a good one. But
inconsistency
right
and
now,
everything,
the inconsistencies in these tax laws
it
now
just
is
needs
giving
to be
concerning
clarified.
ears to everybody.
Yeah.
It's making us feel so concerned because
Yeah.
these tax laws are not consistent. These things. So I don't want to talk about even the inconsistencies alone. I want to
Yeah.
also talk about the advantages of these tax laws
Okay, yeah,
to
definitely.
SMEs and MSMEs.
Yeah, definitely.
We made mention of it last year before when it was passed to bill, when it was just created. That was around June 2025, and we were talking about it that it's going to help a lot of SMEs and MSMEs to grow in their business and create more value in the society.
Yeah.
And you see, this is something that aside these even tax law policies that the government creates, we also have some other kind of policies and principles that the government has given out there that has affected and has also boosted a lot of SMEs and a lot of SMEs business. Policies like in the Bank of Industries right now, this present 2026, they are planning to give out financial assistance toward MSMEs and SMEs. About the SME Dan, which is the small and medium enterprises development agencies of Nigeria. They're planning to register new 250,000 MSMEs, just to boost them, just to give them more confidence on how to run their businesses and to let them know that, okay, don't worry, you guys are creating what values to this society, and of course we are here for you. These are some of the government policies that are given out there in Nigeria.
Well, now this is another thing, okay? Yeah, they are doing this, but I'm not saying that they're not doing it. I'm not saying because now I'm going to talk from my own perspective, from the media perspective. There was a time that the Bank of Industry did create, okay, we're going to be supporting a lot of filmmakers and stuff like that.
They give out grants.
And give out grants and stuff like that. And I know a couple of my guys, they did apply. They did, the most important thing is about trust. I feel that the government need to be able to build that trust process. And I feel, to an extent, the government, they're not doing much around that. But like I said earlier, I just feel that we need to support these SMEs and SMEs, you understand? And if you're saying you want to do this, do it. Let it be physical, let it be feelable, let it be tangible, let people feel it, let people see it, let people see it works. I think that has always been the problem. And secondly, I want to really highlight this. I have not always feel like I said, it's not about paying it. It has always been about let us see it work. When you say you want to do this, let it be tangible, let it be feelable, let it be true, let them experience it, let the people see it, what will I say now? Let them experience it. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? I want to take, for example, I want to use myself as a filmmaker. There was a time, they talked about this Bank of Industry, assisting filmmakers and stuff like that. And you can literally say, okay, how many people literally these grants went to? How many filmmakers actually? Because I know a couple of my friends that said, okay, I'm applying for these filmmakers, but how many people actually, a lot of people applied, but how many people really touched it? But of course, few people can come and say, oh, you didn't apply properly, or I actually applied, I actually got it. But when you look at the ratio doesn't lie. That's one thing I love about numbers. Numbers don't lie. When you present the numbers is going to show you the fact. So talking about this tax issue, I don't think that people are willing to pay the tax. People are ready. Because they've been talking about this tax. We have a lot of content people coming around. We have a lot of influencers coming around talking about the tax and stuff like that. Yeah, but will it work? You just made measure of organizations that are looking at, okay, this is how we want to help SME brands, to help them to register a number of, because of the value that they're bringing into the society and stuff like that. Let it be feelable. That's what we're talking about. So the policies the government are making for SME, they need to be concerned about those policies. They need to be able to make sure that these policies help SME brands to grow. Because at the end of the day, SME brands, they are the engine room of every country.
I
You
agree
want to
with that.
reduce your
Totally
employment
agree.
rate, SME brands are the people you look towards to. Because they are day-to-day people that go out on the street, pull out people, get them to work, and bring value to the country.
Yeah, SMEs are people that you don't joke with in your economy. If you look at China, for example, China government created a policy whereby it helped the SMEs in that economy moved from survival to sustainability. And SMEs in China right now, it has helped a whole lot of it has helped their GDP move in a high rate from let's say that's from 40% to about 75%. And that's a whole lot of things.
Exactly.
Moving your GDP rate, when your GDP of an economy is on sustainability level, then you know that every person, that's we talk about the PI, that's the population index, is going on well, and that's per capita income as well. Per capita income of someone is eating, and you can know that that's a good standard of living.
Exactly. We've been talking about taxes, and it gives room for SMEs to be able to,
To grow.
build, to grow, and
Yeah.
stuff like that. You understand? So, yeah, yeah. Now, the new 7.5 VAT they're
I
talking about that
don't
is going. I
let
don't
us
want us to even go into that because that's going to be a whole lot
yeah,
of
it
topic. But
will.
we really need to outline some other things that the government really needs to be able to do to give SMEs opportunity to be able to grow. They really need to be able to provide access for funding. They really need to work on that. Government providing access for funding can give, because initially I outlined the whole bank of industry and everything and stuff like that. And a couple of my guys, I also say, okay, they wanted to apply for it and stuff like that. So, yeah,
And so, on this, you're saying right now, talking
yeah,
about the policies the government make that might help SMEs and probably affect SMEs in their
mm,
business.
mm,
Before we leave this tax topic,
mm,
I would like to just list some kind of mistakes
mm,
SMEs and MSMEs make.
mm,
Some tax mistakes SMEs and MSMEs make. As an SME and MSME or an MSME personnel,
yeah,
first and foremost, you need to be able to understand that having your proper sales records in order is going to help you. That's number one. We have a lot of SMEs that they don't keep proper sales records of their proper sales records. They don't keep it of their transactions they do. Most of them just think, okay, I have it in my memory or his WhatsApp receipts.
yeah,
No, you have to have a good proper sales records of your transactions.
yes,
That's number one. Number two is most of them don't even know the taxes that apply to their businesses. Do you get my point? So you don't know taxes that apply to your businesses. You're not keeping proper sales records. You're not as an SME or MSME, you are mixing business money with
personal
personal
money,
money. That's awkward. That's not what you should do. As an SME, in case you haven't done that before, you should try and get a wallet. You should get a wallet for your business and know that, okay, this is my business wallet and it's different from my personal income wallet. So that when the tax people come, the tax auditors come around, the tax consultants, when they come around, you can easily present these records, these wallets of how you've done sales transaction of your businesses. And there are a whole lot of things, but I'll just stick on those three for now.
exactly. So, also talking about access to finance, you just made mention of having proper records.
Yeah.
Because when you have a proper records, it can actually help you to access fund. It can help you to access grants. And these are some other things that government can actually do also.
Of course.
And like we were saying, with your proper records, you can easily submit your records properly. And in case if you're applying for grants or if you're trying to access funds or you're trying to access loan, and government can also be able to provide, low interest loans for SMEs. Do you understand what I'm trying to
Yeah,
say? And
yeah.
these are some of the things that I feel like should be out there. You
Yeah,
understand?
actually, on this, you said now the SME Dan are doing these things. Like I said, 2026, they are making sure that they want to register 250,000 new SME companies
Mm,
and also give out grants. For example, the Bank of Industry of Nigeria right now has projected the growth they want to help with the SME companies in this coming 2026, giving them about close to about 12 billion naira worth grants and loans at an interest rate. So it depends on how have you had your documents in order. Last year, a man lost a $10,000 because he couldn't have his documents in order to present for this grant. And that was the grant SME Dan gave last year. They gave about 10,000, 5,000 to $10,000, if I'm not mistaken, grant. And he called me, he said, I've done everything. I asked him, okay, do you have your CSC documents in order? He said, yes. I said, okay, do you have your MEMAT? He told me, what is MEMAT? I was like, that's your memorandum, the memorandum of association. You need to have it in order. Mr. When you're having all these things, and most of them just feel once I get the CSC, once I don't need to get every other thing. I don't know where this AI might probably take us to in the future. But for now that we are dealing with hard copies, you need to be conversant with your documents. Your documents are very important for you as an SME and MSME. You don't joke with it. Once you have your business registered with the Nigerian government, you need to ensure that what these documents are well kept. Once you have your documents well kept, this grant you made mention of,
mm,
you can always benefit from it. So he
exactly.
lost $10,000 grant last year just by not having his records in order.
Exactly. Yeah, it's true. It's true. I think that's another areas like SMEs are always not. I think it's a weakness. It's a weakness in the Nigeria space. I don't want to say it's a weakness, but it's not all SMEs. But it would be very very nice if most people can actually catch up on this. I think last year we also talked about this. We talked about how important for you to be intentional. And if you're going into building your brand, you need to be very intentional and keeping good records, getting all your credentials, your paperwork, they are extremely key. They're very, very key.
Yeah,
Very,
very
very key.
key,
Like
very, very
it can't be,
important.
you want to get those loans, you want to get those grants that government has made available for SMEs. You want to enjoy the benefits in as much as we've talked about most of the things that government have set out that like we talked about the iTax, the platform, the imbalance in this tax or review and
Yeah,
stuff we were
the
talking
lack of
about. Do you understand?
authenticity. Yeah.
Exactly. But it is also very, very nice for us to just have your records.
In
Like it
order.
can't it can't be more explained more than this. Just have your records. Yes, I also made mention of these loans that say, okay, we're giving out these loans, we're giving out these. You might want to say, oh, is it really going out? Am I going to really benefit for these? Am I going to? But when you have your record, you try, you apply, and then you know if you're going to benefit. And I think this is another thing about the whole Nigeria. We are always there's this skepticism, like, oh, well, is it not government? Oh, it's not going to work out. But you haven't really, really genuinely applied.
Yeah.
And another reason why you've not genuinely applied is because you don't have your records, you don't have your paper. So you can't just be making assumption like, oh, is this thing going to work out? Is this thing going to be true? Is this thing really going to happen? Oh, come on, is the Nigeria government. We can't really trust the Nigeria
That's
government. You
that's
can
one thing. Sorry to cut you short. That's one thing that I feel Nigerian people just have. They have this threat,
yeah,
this fear that this is Nigerian government doing this thing. It's a lie. It's not going to work out.
yeah,
Maybe and most of them run to these companies, these credit companies that give them what high interest rate.
yeah.
You want to go for companies that are giving you loan. Of course, you need loan. A
Mm,
lot of companies out there that are SMEs are highly geared.
mm,
You get me? They are debt fund companies. And
exactly.
once your debt fund, like I said, debt is an asset.
Mm,
Debt is not, it depends on what you use your debt for. If you can use your debt for productivity, of course you're going to make a lot of money from it.
mm,
So most of these SMEs run to their to loan sharks companies that have their profits swallowed.
yeah,
So these things are something that really affect the growth of the business as an SME and MSME. So you need to be careful of these things. We have good governmental policies that has been created that really want to help your business grow. For example, this year the SME Dan and the BOI in Nigeria right now are focused on SMEs and MSMEs trying to make them ensure that what they have good sustainability in the economy, because SMEs provide value to us.
Yes, agreed. Okay, I agree totally. But at the same time, business is trust. You know, I think the government also need to look. They need to reflect on themselves as well. Okay, what is the trust they've built over time for SMEs? You know, if they've built that quality trust, we just talked about SME businesses saying, okay, you know what, this government that they're saying this is going to work out. Can I really trust this process? Because I have a couple of my friends, when they were starting up, before they started looking into private loans and stuff like that, and most of them tried. They didn't get. They didn't get those low income loans. They didn't get those low interest loans and stuff like that, and they give up. And I don't think it's all about maybe, oh, they didn't try. But of course, I also know a lot of people that they were also able to get this low interest loans. You understand? But at the same time, business works around trust. It's not about talking about okay, you know what, let these people put their paperwork in order and stuff. But the government also needs to be able to, push that trust, that value trust needs to be there. You made mention of China. You understand? China gives out loans to their SMEs so as to help them to boost their business, and in return, gaining employment, reduce the unemployment rate in their country. But over time, China has been able to build that trust with the SME businesses within their country. So I think these are some of the things that the government also need to look. Over time, they need to build that trust with SME
I agree
businesses.
with you, because the government of Nigeria lacks accountability. That is one thing I know for sure.
They really need to work on that.
They really lack and when you lack accountability, you don't expect people that are taking out their own sweat to create value to the community, to put up their hull with you. You lack accountability. When you look at your parliament of government, you're not being trustworthy, and that's something that absurd. Do you get me? So you don't expect SMEs that has tried to create an innovation, who is resilient in what they do, who has innovated something to create something out of nothing for an economy to grow. Once an SME starts a job production now, it creates a lot of job creation for the people.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you get me? So the government of Nigeria needs accountability. This China you talked about, I could remember China sometimes years back, they passed into bill that anyone caught in corruption will have to be murdered.
I think that's a major problem in Nigeria.
Their president, the president of their central bank, was caught stealing a lot of money. Do you know that the president of China said you have to kill this man, and the whole China broadcast have to show this? United States stepped in and said, no, you don't have to do this thing. China had to tell you that, no, we are accountable to our law. Our law is our law. Once you are caught, he knows what he signed up for. Once you are caught in corrupt practices, you have to go for it. You have to be murdered. Even the China president himself, he knows this because he signed it into law. So accountability in China government is top-notch.
Yes.
I can't say that about Nigeria. So most of these SMEs, they don't trust the Nigerian government.
The trust needs to be there.
And as a business, in business world, you have to trust.
Exactly.
Trust is important. Trust is key.
It's key.
Because when I'm trying to do something to create value to the community, you don't expect me to just do it out of carefree attitude. No, I have to do it with all my heart.
And another thing I want to highlight again is, for me personally, I don't think it's the absence of law in Nigeria. I think the laws are there.
Okay, what do you think
I feel is the absence of, just like what you said, the implementation of the laws. You get what I'm trying to say? Like, yes, the laws are there. There are a lot of, like we talked about, opportunities that the government are bringing out there for SMEs. But the SMEs sees these opportunities, right? They read about these opportunities. They have information about these opportunities, but they don't trust the process. They don't trust that, okay, this process is going to be implemented. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So,
yeah, I do.
And also, just you're talking about corruption and everything and stuff like that. The laws are there. The laws are also clear. But the people, do they believe that, okay, if I do this, this is going to be the repercussion? Do they believe that? Do the Nigerian government do enough to show that, okay, if you actually do this, you are going to go in for it? So it all builds down around this trust. But that being said, as an SME business owner, that doesn't stop you for you not to put your paperwork in order. That doesn't stop you not to apply for the loans. I know maybe sometimes you might say, okay, I've done this, I've applied for a couple of times and I've been disappointed. But hey, you have applied a couple of times, but there are other people that have also applied and they have success story around it. So that you have applied a couple of times, it didn't really work out for you. That doesn't stop you not to apply more, especially when you believe in your business. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? When you believe in your business, why? You apply for it. You understand what I'm trying to say? So yeah, the government really need to do a lot to build the trust, how would I say, the trust gap, like I said earlier, is a little bit wide. They need to do a lot to close that gap. Yeah, they really
they need to
do
do a lot to close that gap, because I had an experience with this, a challenge with it last year when I was trying to apply for a client to get a loan on grant. After following what necessary protocols, do you know that they told me that it has been filled up, that I can't get the loan anymore for the client and things like that. And I'm like, what do you mean you can't get the loan? This happened, that was before they created the new tax law.
Okay.
What do you mean after necessary protocols has been passed to bill? At the end of the day, I get to understand that the person in charge or the person behind it already, like they say, has his own leg, has his own way of getting things
done.
So
and
I think that I just have to tell that client that, even though I'm your financial advisor and personnel, we just have to keep trying again.
And I think that's the reason why we made mention of loan sharks. I think these are the reason why most SME businesses run to these loan sharks, because like what we're saying, if governments have been able to provide low interest opportunity out there, you understand? I think more business will run towards that direction. You get what I'm trying to say? They will run towards that direction. They wouldn't run moving towards these loan sharks or trying to get private loans and stuff like that, because most SMEs, and that's one thing I appreciate about them, most SMEs are being run by private loans. Either you run it with your private money or you get private loans and stuff like that. But the most important thing is you need to take your business personal. You need to be intentional about your business, and the government really need to do more. They are trying with these old stuff you talked about now, the old new implementation that they're bringing out and stuff like that. And if it's not because now I can't really say much about this tax. Last year, I think I was a little bit more, there's a lot of opportunities now for you as an SMEs. But the government will not agree with you that it literally lacks authenticity.
I know they wouldn't
agree with you.
But from what we've heard, what was being passed into law is not what was presented is not what was passed.
Yeah.
And these things needs to be cleared.
Exactly.
These needs to be cleared in the financial space.
Sorry that I had to come in here. These are the things we're talking about, trust issues here. When you're passing something and now you pass a gazetted law, and now we're having something else, and now you're saying, okay, hold on, it's not that we're passing it two different things, we want to go. But these are the trust issues we're talking about. And I actually wanted to say this before now. And talking about this tax stuff and everything, talking about registering your business and everything, it is also important. Many SMEs know, because there are a lot of people that register the business, and you ask them, have you registered your business? Say, yeah, I've registered my business. But most of these guys, they register their business because we'll be talking about the 100 million threshold and stuff like that. Most of these people, they actually register their business via enterprise. So, and when you're registering your business via enterprise, the OPIT, the personal income tax, is also binding to you. But if you're registering your business as a limited liability, that is when this 100 million threshold, you have an opportunity to be able to enjoy this. But that is why you, as an MSME or SME, you need to be able to say, okay, I want to grow. You need to be able to improve on your business. But talking about,
some of these SMEs sometimes The
Yeah.
government creates policies that helps them.
Yeah.
When the government does this, some of them have been lackadaisical about it. They
Okay.
don't act fast. They just feel, okay, this policy the government has created for me,
Is it true?
is it true? They want to take time.
But that also boils
But
down the trust
yeah,
we're
it
talking
boils
about.
down to the trust issues you're saying. But you're a business personnel, and from the moment you started business, you understand that every business deals with risk. So when it comes to the government, I know you want to preserve your business financials. You don't want things to go south or to go left.
Yeah.
Let me use it that way. You don't want things to go left. So, but as a business, as an SME and MSME, I'm going to urge you to do what to act fast on good policies that would affect your businesses. To do what to ensure that you're not being lackadaisical about these governmental policies. For example, I've just given you one tips right now that the SME Dan really wants to register 250,000 new MSMEs and SME businesses. And also the Nigerian Bank of Industry is willing to help over these 250,000 SMEs to grow financially and enhance them to develop in their innovative skills. So these are things that as an SME and MSME personnel, you need to act on them. You need to be conversant with these
Even
things.
if you are feeling that doubt,
you just have to
try.
do it,
Come
because
on,
you give
try.
it a try. Exactly.
Yeah.
They say something in mathematics or in science that try and error method. So just give it a trial. You don't need to feel lackadaisical. You don't need to relax on these things that, okay, this thing, is it true? Yeah, I know you have trust issues with the government, but in as much as you have trust issues with the government, you need to keep trying. You need to, because what kept you going right from time was because you took that risk. You didn't sit back and say, okay, I'm okay where I am. You took the risk to create something, to start up something, to give value back to the economy.
Exactly.
So once you've done this, please stop being sluggish about these good governmental policies that the government has given out there. Just act fast on it and ensure that they are very, very be sure and ensure that it has authenticity in them.
I don't know what to add to it. Like, it's clear, like what I always say is this, this is your business. Your business, you always try everything to make sure it works. You have to take your business personal. As a business person, you keep trying and trying and trying and trying and trying till you get it right. Because it's not easy well, I would say the government, like he said, we probably might have that trust issues, but I will also go far and say it's not only Nigeria, okay? It's not only Nigeria that people have. I think in all over the world, there's always this skepticism around government stuffs. Okay, so is it coming from the government? Can we really trust the government? And that is where the government also needs to work on themselves to create that trust opportunity, to allow businesses to be able to trust them. Because at the end of the day, government needs these people. It's a synergy. Government can do it all. You want to reduce the unemployment rate in your country. What happens? You need to support SMEs. Because SMEs can help you to drastically reduce the unemployment rate in your country. Economy. A lot of countries have done it. Singapore has done it. China has done it.
Yes.
And they have marvelous and great.
In fact, this thing you just made mention of is something that is going rampant in the Asia world. The Asia world,
they're investing on SMEs.
They invest in SMEs. Look at Indonesia. They don't joke with their SMEs.
Exactly.
Look at Singapore, you made mention of. Look at China. Look at Japan. Exactly. And that is why you see today, right now, aside the European Union fight, don't let me say fight, the European Union conflict that came in that is causing tariffs. It's causing tariffs on Chinese electrical products.
Exactly.
So most of the electrical products we all are using right now, even in Nigeria, in major part of Africa, are coming from the Asia people. If it's not coming from Korea, it is from Japan, it is from China. So because China has the highest rate of electrical produce, and these things, they've been able to achieve this with the help of the government. So I'm going to urge Nigerian government, in as much as I'm also urging the SMEs in Nigeria, that you guys should do what the Nigerian government should try and close the gap, the big gap between the gap trust issues between them and the SMEs. Problem. They should close it. And as for the SMEs, they should also try and
do those things
out there that make sure that their business thrives on productivity and growth.
Yes, exactly. Like, it can't be stretched more than this. It can't be stretched more than this. And this is the thing we're talking about. Because the idea of finance media lifestyle, what we do here is to make sure that we are rooting for SMEs. That's what we do. We're rooting for SMEs because at the long run, we know that SMEs rule the world. SME rule the world. And we're talking about zero trust issues and everything. Just I know I want to cite Dangote. Dangote is not really an SME, but talking about the whole trust issues, we could see how he comes around, talk about his product, talks about some of the challenges he faces. So I understand. The Nigerian market. It's not easy, but I think this government or any other government coming around needs to be able to create environment for businesses to thrive. And with this new tax system, yeah, it actually provides such avenue. But like we also know, there are a lot of SMEs that have registered their business, and that was why I actually talked about the whole enterprise and limited, trying to differentiate them. And there are a lot of Nigeria businesses that register their business via enterprise, not necessarily limited. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? And going back with this whole 7.5, I don't even want us to go into that. It just feels like and now you say, okay, this 7.5, oh, you guys have been paying this 7.5 before. It's not like it's new. It has always been there. You understand what I'm trying to say? So yeah, I think the government needs to also be able to reduce this old tax to encourage SMEs. You understand what I'm trying to say?
I don't want to sound like
because
sorry to cut you. I
yeah,
don't want to
the
sound like I'm
employment rate.
going
Sorry, I
against
just want to
this.
say
Okay.
the unemployment rate in Nigeria is not looking funny.
No, that is not okay at all. And this unemployment rate has caused the standard of living in this country to
drop.
reduce,
Exactly.
to drop drastically.
But I think the government are saying they are working on it.
Yeah, they are working on it, but we need to feel it on a common man's body.
Yeah.
The common man needs to know, has to experience the work the government is doing.
Yeah.
Do you get me, bro?
Not just on
because,
paper.
Paul, I'll be realistic with you, honestly. I'm always for SME. Get me right. I am always for SMEs and MSMEs because out there, the MSMEs and SMEs are the they are the value chain. They are the backbone of the economy. Let me use that. They are the backbone of the economy. Without them, you can't expect us to just have a government with only socialism. Do you get my point? It doesn't work out.
That's another argument.
Yeah,
there are a lot of people that believe in
and
socialism.
Neither can you just expect to have a government with just only capitalism.
Exactly.
Do you get my point? It has to be mixed, and Nigeria is practicing this mixed system. So for we to be able to know that okay, these SMEs they have more confidence in this government. The government needs to give out good policies that are stable, not instability in these policies. A new government can come tomorrow now and nullify these tax laws.
I'm telling you.
Look at this 7.5, for example, we don't want to dive into. A new government can come tomorrow and nullify it. For example, before Buhari increased it to of blessed memory, the former president Buhari increased the VAT to 7.5%. Under the former President Goodluck Jonathan, it was 5%. Do you get me? That is VAT. That is the VAT rate. It was 5%. This is tax on what? Tax on goods consumed.
Exactly.
It is just 5%. Now, this new tax law now has also what reduced the CGT, which is the capital gain taxes that you get on assets. It has reduced it. Before it was 10%. Right now it has reduced it to about 5 to 8% right now. So there are a lot of benefits with these new tax laws that helps personal people and also SMEs. While this new tax law, the PIT that people are complaining about in the financial space affects high income earners. But if you look at it very well, high income earners themselves, if you're earning 1 million before under PITA, which is a Personal Income Tax Act, you get to pay higher tax rate. But unlike this present tax law now, if you're earning 1 million naira gross, you have to pay just you won't pay much more money on it. Do you get my point? So under this this new tax law, if you're earning 1 million naira, now you get to pay less. If you're earning 1 million naira gross monthly, that is that's 12 million naira annually. You get to pay less because you're going to be paying roughly about 100,000 to about 133,000 naira as your tax.
Okay.
But if you're earning under the old one, which is the PITA, the Personal Income Tax Act, you're going to be paying about 125 to 150. So
Okay.
this new tax law right now really helps. It is a progressive tax law that help SMEs and all SMEs, MSMEs, and it's a tax law that it is there for high income earners only. The C class gets to breathe. The middle classes they get to breathe. That's it. That's what this tax law is all about.
You see, this is the thing. This is the conversation. If we want to start talking about these whole policies that the government really needs to make, it's all centered around tax. It's all centered about creating good environment for SMEs to be able to thrive, making good policies that helps SME businesses to be able to, create employment opportunities for people out there, and the government really, really, like I said earlier, it's not about um, words on paper, or saying this is it. It's all sweet on paper. It's about really actually actualizing it. People
Yeah.
actually can feel it, people can actually touch it, people can actually receive it, which boils down to what we said earlier, trust. The government, like you said earlier, they really need to work on that, try to bridge that gap, and make sure that that trust, the people, the businesses can actually trust the government to say, okay, you know what, I can trust this government. If this government say this, I want to believe that my government actually have my back. And you rightly said Asia countries have been able to do this on their countries. They've been able to make sure that their citizens have that trust for them, and they've been able, and we can see the results. We can see the results in their country. We can see how well their country has developed. We can see how well they've been able to bridge down the old poverty rates in their country and stuff like that. So, and I think these are some of the things that you see a lot of people talk about. I will cite an example. Somebody like Peter Obi always make mention of Asia countries and make sure Indonesia talks about China and the rest and stuff like that. And that's the reason why we also, because China back 2000, early 2000, they were like in the same measurement with Nigeria in terms of
Yeah.
growth
They were nowhere to
projection.
be found in terms of economic standard.
I
Yeah.
even think that, like in terms of growth projection over back 2000, they were literally in par. Even before the era of good luck, Nigeria was actually having a very high growth progression.
Yeah,
And
we're having a good standard of living because at that time now, before good luck, like you
mm,
made mention of, and that was the former president Musa Yaradua of
mm,
blessed memory.
yes, exactly.
Nigeria has a good standard of living.
Mm,
Things were going on in order. The naira value
it's not
it
wasn't
is
that.
very strong in
Yeah,
the
it was
market.
strong, much better than
But
now.
right now, and over time, I've come to sit back and understand that okay, this currency value they made mention of. Look at, for example, you can compare the yen to dollar.
Mm,
Do you get me?
yeah,
Yen to dollar, dollar is over yen.
yeah.
You get my point? And even I think it is 1 yen
Mm,
to 2 naira now or 5 naira now.
okay.
But that yen
Mm,
will get you whatsoever thing you want to buy
exactly.
at anywhere in China,
Mm,
regardless how big China is. So China's standard of living,
yeah.
because of how the government has been a good backbone to
Mm,
the SMEs,
yeah. They've been able to
giving the SMEs what
opportunity.
opportunities to thrive,
Yeah.
making sure that the SMEs have this creation of values to the society.
Mm.
They've been able to do that stuff. They've
Make
been
their
able to
economy strong
stand it, make sure that these things are being done well
and
for
done
their
right.
economy. And
Exactly.
it doesn't have to be with their currency. Of course, you can tell me my currency is bad on a global rate. I
Mm.
don't care. But in as much as my people
Mm.
are buying whatsoever thing
They
they want
want
to
to
buy
buy.
in that country, I'm good. And this thing almost led to a conflict in the US and China tariffs,
Yeah.
increase in tariffs. Last year, part of the things that happened last year,
Yeah,
and I
exactly.
think we made mention of this in the
Earlier.
early times of the show.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know,
Which brought us to policies that government can actually bring in to assist SME. So yeah, that's what the conversation, in case you're just joining us, that's what the conversation has been about. It's been about policy that government can actually bring in to assist SMEs. And so far so good, we've been able to touch a lot. We've talked about a lot. We've talked about this new tax system, the irregularities. We've also talked about the opportunities that are out there for SMEs. So yeah, stick with us because this is what we do right here. If you're an SME doing your thing, building your brand, you need to work on it. You need to, because your business, like I've always said, there's no difference between you and your business. You have to be intentional about it. You have to be extremely intentional about it. And I understand maybe things might look uncertain right now, but I can tell you for a very good fact that if you keep on doing your thing, keep on grinding hard, you keep on putting in the work, we just make sure of making sure that you get your paperwork right, making sure you get your records right. If you put in those things, you keep on pushing it, come on, you're gonna hit it big. So this is where we're gonna be ending it today, but we're gonna be seeing you very soon. Right?
Yeah, it was nice having you on the show, bro.
We'll always have each other. We'll always have each other. So
Of course.
literally, we'll be here very soon again to talk
Yeah.
more,
Talk
because
more and
we'll
tell
keep on talking.
SMEs and MSMEs tips on how to keep your business standing and how to keep your business in a
Exactly.
sustainable way,
Exactly.
moving from survival to sustainability.
Exactly.
Because you SMEs are the backbone of this country. They are
Definitely.
the backbone of every economy. Because
Exactly.
we know that you can take your business out of this country and
Exactly.
still thrive. But
Exactly.
you have to keep your business in this country
Yeah.
to ensure that the employment rate in this country is stabilized.
Exactly.
Thank you very much for having for your view and your idea, bringing your idea into reality. We love you SMEs and we are here for you.